Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, audience discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Travelers on the Omnibus, a field trip through nerd and pop culture. My name is Ethan Skinner.
I'm James McCarthy.
I'm Brady Davis.
I'm Jody Kite.
Today,
You said you had a bit.
yes.
Is this the bit?
Yes.
I'm pre-stepping. Okay.
Yeah, man, damn, we are.
That's a new one for me.
We are stepping on the bit before
Gentlemen,
the bit. Wow.
I have a question for all three of you.
Okay.
Who would win in a fight?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know where this is going.
50 men or one silverback gorilla?
Oh, we're doing 50 men.
Oh, that's right.
Was speed
That was
two.
speed two.
That was speed 2.
I cut it down.
I thought the discourse was 100 men.
It's either or. Either or.
Mostly what I've seen is 100.
I've seen both 50 and 100. But the question still remains, who wins?
So 100 men or one gorilla?
For the sake of everything, we'll go with 100 men or one gorilla.
100 men.
Yes, 100 men.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Now, if it was a grizzly bear, I would have to think about it.
still 100 men, but the fatality count goes way up.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone who says who'd win a grizzly bear or gorilla, shut the fuck up. It's a
Yeah.
grizzly bear.
You are. You,
And
you
that's
have lost
just
your goddamn
the
mind.
mid tier.
Yeah.
Then you go to the fucking Yukon Kodiak,
Right.
And then you go to the fucking polar bear.
Yeah, the discourse is funny because like 100 men could just stand there and then the gorilla could just start whooping their ass and he would eventually get tired.
He'd wind himself.
Yeah.
At some point.
A lot of people were saying like the gorilla goes through the first 10 men and the other 90 are like
He
scared
gets through maybe
shitless.
15. Like,
Yeah, no.
if we're talking about how they are all deciding that they are going to actually fight this thing, like they will eventually wear it down.
Now, one group of people I saw fight over this is like environment. Because if it's like an open field, then the men win. But if it's in like the rainforest, that's home turf on the gorilla.
So if gorilla gets arena select in the fighting game,
See, I wouldn't even argue that because
I
like,
wouldn't even. Yeah, I wouldn't either. Because
it's
once
still
again,
100 men and it's 100 men that could now hide in the jungle.
And climb trees.
Yeah.
Men can climb trees.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue not as efficient as a gorilla.
men can fashion
But-
tools.
But at the
and
same
Gorillas
time,
don't really
weapons.
like climb trees that much.
I would agree with you, Ethan, except a gorilla can't chase 20 dudes up 20
Yeah.
different trees
Gorillas-
with one gorilla.
gorillas make nests on the ground.
I'm on the 100 guys winning.
Are you on the 100 guys?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
which would a woman encounter? What rather encounter
I'm not
in
touching
a
this
forest?
one.
No.
100 men or a gorilla?
A gorilla.
Yeah, a gorilla.
Brady, what have you been doing?
All right.
No, wait, I have a question for you, Ethan
okay.
Skinner. What is your from McDonald's? What is your favorite pound burger?
Quarters.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Problem solved.
He's been waiting
Yeah.
for that one.
There we go.
yeah,
gotcha.
You may continue on. I also did the speed 2 one. I cut down the speed 2 one. I have the original still.
Let me hear the cut down version because we were talking over it.
Yeah,
speed 2.
Oh, that's
That was
right.
speed
That
2.
cuts out the whole setup for the joke, Jay.
Yes, I know. That's the point of the joke.
Yeah.
No one
It's
knows
just
what.
a punchline.
Yeah.
It's like, what was the name of that movie? And then I'll go, it's Speed 2. Oh, yeah, it's Speed 2. It's Speed 2. It's Speed 2.
Brady, what have
So
you been doing this week?
Andor season 2 started. I've watched the first 3 episodes. It is pretty good. This is one of the best Star Wars things that have come out in since Disney
Since
took over.
Rogue One.
Yeah, since Rogue One. And Rogue One is the best of the movies that
The
have
newer
came out.
things,
But,
yeah.
You know, when it comes to TV shows and really
Like
anything
the
else.
Disney era of Star
Yeah,
Wars.
the Disney era of Star Wars. This is the best thing. It's still pretty good. It's interesting. They show people who seem to be a lot more human in this. Like in the first episode, Andor has to like steal this prototype TIE fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really bad at driving it.
Nice.
Which is refreshing because like it seems like everybody's in Star
just
Wars,
good at everything.
whenever they whenever you drop them into any
good
starfighter,
at
they are just
anything.
automatically
Yeah.
they can fly it.
Right.
And it you know
Episode 7, when Rey and Finn, they hop into the Millennium Falcon. They drive it. No problems whatsoever. And then with her saying, oh, that's a piece of junk, it won't start.
well, I would argue like because that's one of the arguments people say when they complain about Rey. I would argue like it makes sense that Rey understands how to use the Millennium Falcon because it's been there in that junkyard for forever, so she's been able to like look at it and understand it. But like, you know,
just jumping in any ship, being able to fly it.
like any ship, I don't, I don't understand. Like they can always just kind of drop in. So, but yeah, so far it's pretty good. It's very interesting. I like the espionage kind of stuff that they're doing. So yeah, the first 3 episodes of that, it's good so far.
Stellan Skarsgård still in there?
Yes.
All right, good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I also last night I watched the hip movie that is taking over cinemas, and that is Sinners.
Michael B. Jordan and
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, but Haley Steinfeld's also in there.
DeRoy Lindo, he's also in there.
Oh, that's cool. I like Delroy Lindo.
Delroy Lindo. I'm sorry. I can't remember. It's the fat guy from 8 Mile. I can't remember his name.
Hang on.
But they're all in it. First of all, like I went because Tuesdays I went to the Biloxi Theater, and the Biloxi Theater, like it's $5 for
Omar Miller.
Yeah. It's $5 for a ticket. So I was like, fuck it. Yeah. I've been wanting to watch. I've had a hard time getting to theaters this year. And there's been several like original movies that I've wanted to watch, and I just could not make myself go. And I was like, I'm going to fucking go and I'm going to watch this goddamn movie. Ryan Coogler is the director. For those who do not know, this is the guy who did Black Panther 1 and 2. He also did the first Creed movie.
Also did Judas and the Black Messiah.
Oh, he did do Judas. That was the one that I missed. I was talking to somebody about it, but I forgot about that.
We were talking about it earlier.
Yeah. Okay.
Kaluuya won for the best supporting in that one, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. And Lakeith was nominated.
Yeah. Which I thought both of them wouldn't win because they would take votes from one another, but I guess Daniel Kaluuya.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which I loved him in it, but yeah.
He did all 3 Creeds.
He produced 2 and 3 because Michael B. Jordan directed 3.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And I'm pretty certain that he did not direct 2, but I could be wrong on that. The only one that I'm 100% about is 3.
It looks like he has some like he has his hands on the production.
Yeah,
he's accredited in the entire.
Yeah. You get producer credits. Even that's a whole thing that we might get into one day. I don't know, but yeah, Sinners is good. I will say, like, apparently everybody had my fucking idea because it was a pretty packed theater, which also meant that it was a shit crowd. I
was expecting, man, it was a packed theater. It was good energy in there, and it's a fucking shit crowd.
It's quite
a few times. Phones went off. One motherfucker actually like answered the phone and started talking and was like, "I'm in the theater watching the movie."
I don't think that you've told a movie-going experience where.
Well, I need to start going to movies that nobody else wants to watch on weird times and days. So then I'm the only one in the theater, so I can just enjoy it.
Those days.
Don't do that.
Except for that.
You have a weird.
You might get the Borderlands experience if you do. I'm just saying. Just saying.
Well, that hasn't happened yet, so I'm not. So we're gonna
because you haven't done it yet.
No, I've done it several times.
That was you.
Censored.
What am I cutting now?
Censored.
Yeah.
Don't fucking use that either.
Swear to God, that better not be on the board. You do not have my consent to put that on the board.
You don't have my consent of repeating what he said either. To put that on the board or in the show.
Cut now. There's so much. Okay.
All right.
Oh, that's a good belly laugh.
Yeah, you're not gonna like this. So they played the trailer for Final Destination Bloodlines. And when Tony Todd came up on screen, one of the teenagers next to me called him Dime Store Morgan Freeman.
Wow.
Okay, hang on. Okay, we've traveled back in time and we're at the theater now. Show me where these motherfuckers are, so I can whoop that ass.
But that's enough complaining about the theater. It was fine, I guess. But Sinners really, really good. it kind of does a From Dusk Till Dawn thing. I don't think it, because I know our friend Eddie, he mentioned that it kind of just felt like very much like Dusk Till Dawn. But I don't think it really felt like it, but it does like it. There's a turn in the middle of it, like it changes.
Yeah, you were talking to me earlier
from
about
one
you said
thing
the,
into
the pivot wasn't as hard. It wasn't as sharp.
Yeah, it wasn't as sharp a pivot because they do give you like in people forget like in from the original From Dusk Till Dawn, you had no, if you went into it, I didn't go into it not knowing it, but like if you went into it not knowing, like there was no indication that this this changed what it was.
Do I need to know what Dusk to Dawn is?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
At
watch
some
that
point.
shit.
Okay,
It's good.
we're gonna stop this recording. We're gonna watch Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
That might be something that needs to fucking.
The first 15 minutes are directed by Tarantino, and then the rest of the movie is filmed by Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is like a pivot, but there is foreshadowing, like you see, like, but yeah, it's really really good. You know, Michael B. Jordan is twins is there. He's really good in both roles. There's another guy who is like their cousin who can play the guitar. He's really good in it. The main bad guy is really good. Haley Steinfeld's great. She's always really good. Yeah, it's a great movie, and it's an original movie. And I've seen people like, oh man, are they gonna do sequels, or they need to do like a lore heavy graphic novel of this? And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like it could be just one movie.
Yeah. Let it just be one movie.
Also, a really cool thing about this movie is that when it was made, Coogler got a deal with Warner Brothers that after 25 years, he is the sole owner of the movie rights. So that's a really cool deal, and it caused a lot of panic, apparently, and in the movie studios. And then so there was a lot of like weird press that came out, like, oh, it did pretty well on its opening weekend, but it still didn't make its money back. So like there was a lot of like weird shit, but it was number one in the theaters this past weekend too. I think the Thunderbolts coming up this weekend is probably going to take some from it, but it's still going to go strong. But yeah, definitely like it's a really good movie. Everybody is really good. I can't remember. There's another woman in it that she's great in a bunch of different things. She was in His House, that was really great. But yeah, Sinners, it's great. Watch it. It's a really good horror movie that starts as not a horror movie and then becomes one.
Wunmi Mosaku.
Yes, I think that's her. Yeah,
She
she was in the first season of Loki, I believe. She was one of the. She was one of the. She wasn't like an agent like Owen Wilson's character of the time people, but she was.
She was one of the enforcers.
Yeah, she was like one of the people who dressed like.
I know who
Riot
you're talking about.
She's a great actress. Like everybody, like this. It was a really stacked cast. Even people that you didn't know, they were still good. Like I said, the main bad guy, like he was great too. And it's an interesting. Yeah, they did a lot of interesting things with the lore and stuff. Really, really good movie. I'd say definitely go watch it. It's great. Also, last night I beat Lunar Silver Star Story. Stayed up late to do it.
Nice.
Because I was a little bit away. It took me about 24 hours ish to do it. I didn't get all of the secret stuff. Because in that game, a lot of stuff is like hard locked to specific times. You need to go do this thing if you want to get this special item or this other thing. And I didn't do a lot of it. But yeah, it's a very good game. Still holds up, I think. This one wasn't as difficult as I remember it. And the thing that I encountered was like everybody has like a very specific role. And to get to bosses, you like almost every single boss, you do pretty much the same thing in the fight, and it's just because like everybody's role is so well defined that it's like, okay, I'm gonna do this the first round, I'm gonna do this the second round, and then we're just gonna keep this train going. You kind of have to change that up for a couple of fights, but yeah, it really great game. I'm looking forward to starting Eternal Blue sometime this weekend probably, and because I haven't played that one before, so I'm gonna try and go through it and get all the secret stuff and everything. But yeah, That's what I've been doing. Yeah. I'm gonna piggyback on a couple other things that when people mention them, but yeah.
Let's go over to Jody.
So I have unlocked all the Ode to Castlevania characters from Vampire Survivors.
Sweet.
Do you have Soma Cruz?
Yeah,
Yes.
I have all of them. I haven't. There's some abilities I haven't unlocked yet. There's one where you have to evolve like all the spell books, and I think like one of the next to last characters had a spell book that I haven't done that yet. But I'm pretty much done with that DLC, and then I still have the Contra DLC to go through, and the DLC for Among Us as well. But those the Among Us characters, there's not many of those, but the Contra characters probably about half as many of the Castlevania characters, which was somewhere around 20 plus characters to unlock, which took quite a bit of time, especially considering that one of the last ones I was trying to do, it's the one where you have to have 3 different items to evolve into one thing, and it's like it's like two or three different like spells where they're like giant wolf heads are just coming out. And in order to get to the point where I could evolve those, I had to live long enough, because those things start out pretty weak. So I had to pick up a bunch of different weapons to stay alive during that time period. And for some reason, when I was like right about to the game crashed. After all the shit that I've shown y'all with like, you know, the game getting to the point where the music was breaking, never fucking crashed on me. But on this one thing I was trying to do, it crashed twice.
Damn.
Yeah, but I did finally get to unlock it. And then the other day I was sorting through my Magic cards and trying to work on some multiple decks, and I wanted to have something in the background, and I ended up watching the movie pretty much all the way through, and that was the 1995 Jim Carrey classic, The Mask.
Oh shit! Childhood favorite.
That movie is great. I have a great memory of it too, because I saw it originally in the theater. And it was a packed house. It was like opening weekend. And the scene in the movie where the dog gets the mask, the theater lost their shit. Damn. They lost their shit. So that was a great experience. And then, because I was watching it on Tubi, one of the greatest streaming services of all time, and I was... Go ahead.
Tubi sent me an email because I haven't logged onto Tubi in a while. That was like really weird.
Oh, yeah?
Like cryptic weird?
Yeah, they were like, hey, how you doing?
How you been,
Yeah,
man?
bring it up.
Let me
bring it up. I want to hear this before I go into the next thing.
Sorry.
You're good. We'll play the Jeopardy music right now.
Jeopardy music. This is Jeopardy music.
I've discovered the power of the breeding pen.
That's a good one.
What is Cult of the Lamb? Am I correct?
No, that is Pal World.
Pal
World.
Okay.
There was a Cult of the Lamb.
Bianca found the mating tent.
Yeah,
that's Cult of the Lamb.
Okay, there we go.
Cult of the Lamb.
Must have been in my spam, and then when I deleted it, it
gotcha.
was forever.
But it was really weird.
Yeah, it was like really weird. I was like, ugh, I don't know if I want to get back on Tubi right now. Jesus.
Well, you don't have to log in to use it. That's another great thing about Tubi. You don't even have to log in and use it.
Well, I logged in like a while back to just so you could say you could like save movies.
You can save a list.
Because I didn't want to like look through all the movies again.
But because we're equal opportunity negative, you get stalker emails.
Yeah, you get weird stalker emails.
And so Tubi does this thing where, unlike all the other streaming services, like if you're watching a show on Netflix, which I'm going to get to here in a minute, and it's got multiple episodes, it'll keep playing the same show until it gets to like episode 5 or so, and then it'll be like, hey, are you sure you're watching? You want to keep watching, or do you want to stop watching? It's one of the things.
Are you still there?
Yeah, basically just to keep you from like, so they can have an idea of what their algorithm is and everything like that. People aren't just like leaving it on or whatever. Tubi just goes to another movie. Like Netflix won't go if you finish a movie on Netflix, it will not go to another movie automatically. But on Tubi, it will. And so it went from The Mask to Liar Liar.
Okay.
Okay.
I had never seen Liar Liar.
Oh wow, that's another one that I watched a whole bunch.
I thought it was really cute. I liked it a lot. I thought it was one of the best Jim Carrey movies I'd never seen before. And it was great because I can only take him in certain things. Like I can't stand Ace Ventura. I'm sorry, I just can't. But
when I was a child, Ace Ventura was the funniest fucking thing.
Because
does not hold up as well
because it's just fart
neither
humor.
neither one of them.
It's
hold
like
up.
trying
well,
to go back.
I hate Dumb and Dumber. I cannot watch it.
I liked
Dumb and Dumber I didn't like as much.
I liked
when
it
I was younger.
I liked it. Okay, I saw it in the theater. It was funny the one time I watched it, and I cannot go back and ever watch it.
I
again.
cannot stand it. I do not.
I don't like Billy Madison.
Billy Madison I watched when I was younger. I haven't gone back and I don't know if I want
I
to.
don't think I've seen Billy Madison.
They're making a Happy Gilmore 2.
They are, and I saw the trailer for it on Netflix, and it looks awful.
Didn't watch it.
But anyway, well, it was on Netflix. When I was watching Raw, they showed it as a commercial because it is
Against Your Will
on
that's
Netflix. Yeah. So I watched Liar Liar, and I thought it was good. And Jennifer Tilly's in it, and she's good in most everything that I've seen her in.
Yeah, she's great,
and she's also not bad to look at. But yeah, so I thought that was really good or whatever. And then I started watching a Netflix show. Now Brady has made.
tell me what.
I will. It's what was the name of the show? Hold on. I just forgot everything.
My prediction was not that Jody.
No. Okay, hold on.
Man, if it was,
I remember now.
Okay, we're good. Okay,
yeah.
I'm keeping this in, but I mean,
that's fine. Yeah. I don't care. I'm fucking old, and my memory is shit. This is a show that was originally on Fox back in the day, and the thing about it being on Fox back in the day is they couldn't show. Nudity, which when they say that on a Netflix show, it means you're seeing male ass most of the time, which is, there was nothing else. It was just man butts. But anyway, it was on, and originally the show was just another reality show, right? But on Netflix, it's a reality show, but they can spice it up because it's on Netflix, and that's Temptation Island.
What I write down there?
Bullshit reality show. Yeah, you knew it.
When you giggled, when you mentioned it.
Brady gets 1 point.
I was like, let me write this
the
down.
score is 1 to nothing to nothing.
I should have specifically put down a reality dating show.
I have, I have different, tastes. Sometimes I have well-defined tastes. Like, I like Akira Kurosawa movies and art house films, but I also like trash reality television. And
if Akira Kurosawa were still alive and was the director of Temptation Island, would you like it?
Probably.
All right. Just checking.
So the concept of this show, I don't remember what the original show was because it was like early to mid 2000s. So they take 4 couples that are already sort of going through it. And so they take 4 girls and put them on one side of the island, and they take the 4 guys and they put them on the other side of the island while they separately live in 2 cabanas with 12 other opposite sex compatriots, companions, whatever you want to call it. Individuals. And go on dates to test their strength of their love to see. And after a few episodes, they'll have the guy Mark, whatever his name is, the host or whatever, will have the quote unquote campfire, which is the big reveal at the end of so many episodes where you're showed your significant others what they've been saying, maybe what they've been doing. And there was one couple where it's just immediately the girl's I don't know if I can ever forgive him for cheating on me. He's a piece of shit and all that stuff. And so the guy's watching this video of her saying this and being yep, I'm a piece of shit. And then 2 days later, he's fucking in the shower. And then at the end of the show, she sits there and she's obviously, I don't forgive any of them for doing any of the things, but she's just railing him. She's like, 2 days in, you were like kissing girls and fucking. He's like, you told me I was a piece of shit from that video and said you didn't know if we were ever going to make it out of this and that you could never forgive me. So, I mean, what am I to do? And I don't blame anybody.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations watching that show where I don't blame anybody. Another spoiler is a couple that was going through it got married at the end of the season.
Damn.
He's like, we've tested our love and we're going to get married. And she's like, yeah. And then one more thing, there's like halfway through the season, there's a guy who's just, he's a super Christian. He's like all about it. He's also all about threesomes and, like as God intended.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I believe that was the 11th commandment.
there, thou shalt go into your bathroom that's not cameraed with two other girls. And they show him going into the bathroom, in his bathroom with these two girls. And then you see the door open after like several minutes and you hear birds chirping. They had been in there all night.
Damn.
And then when she was showed all that, she inevitably forgave him for it, and they left the island together.
Damn.
After he slept with two other women, because this isn't reality, baby. This wouldn't happen in real life. I would never be surrounded by 12 beautiful women all at once in this specific.
Well, that may be true.
That is
that
probably
may be
true.
true,
But the thing is, this dude has had a threesome before. It's not the first time. Maybe with girls of this caliber, it was the first time. But yeah.
So the host of the show is Mark Wahlberg.
It's not
the
Mark
actor.
Wahlberg.
Not that
the
guy.
actor. Mark L. Wahlberg.
Oh, okay.
Who has also
Yeah.
hosted Antiques Roadshow and and Russian Roulette.
I didn't
Didn't
see
he
that
also
one.
do Moment of Truth?
He did.
He also did Temptation
So-
Island originally.
Yes.
Yeah, the original Temptation,
Yeah.
but that's paired with Moment of Truth,
Yeah.
which was the worst idea for one of these shows ever. Because, and I think one of the two episodes, yeah, you know which one I'm talking about. This is the one where they put people on lie detectors and ask them questions. And one of the, like, this was a 2-part episode, and one of these episodes doesn't exist anymore because eventually the questions, and the $500,000 question was, do you believe your father's a pedophile? And she goes,
I saw the clip of
and
it.
she
I saw a clip of
and
that.
she goes, yes, and she believed that, and they got $500,000. That episode doesn't. You can't find that shit.
I was scrolling through like the Facebook reels and I saw a clip of that.
I thought the worst one from that was like, have you ever cheated on your husband? And like a family member can like, no, like, and it's like it wasn't even her sister; it was her sister-in-law. No, she shouldn't be forced to have to fucking do this. It's like, ask another question. So the question they asked was, seriously, have you cheated on your father? It's like, oh, what the fuck?
Wow.
That option then means nothing.
Jesus. You know why there's no To Catch a Predator anymore? Because they confronted one dude and then he went out and immediately killed himself.
Oh shit.
While they were confronting him. Like he got out, he ran out and then killed himself.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, maybe we don't need to do this anymore.
Yeah, that's a rough one. I mean, it's good, understandably good show, exposing people and things like that. The thing about this Temptation Island, I will say one more thing about Temptation Island, is that he consoles the people while they're going through it. Like when they're watching something, like it's just like you just watched your significant other fuck somebody else, and you're on this show and they don't want you to leave. So this guy is like, I've never seen him act like a psychiatrist, and he's just sitting there just like, listen, Sydney, this is not about him fucking somebody else. This is about you and what you need to do now. You've got to move through this because he's not, I'm paraphrasing, he's like, because your relationship is over and there's like 4 other dudes that want to fuck you right now. So you need to really move on.
When one door,
Is he a psychologist or a pimp?
Both.
What the
¿Por qué no los dos?
when one door closes, 4 more open.
Yeah. That guy's got big pecs. Look at him. Fuck your boyfriend. That's my shit.
No, don't fuck your boyfriend. Fuck someone that not your boyfriend.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Fuck not your boyfriend.
Fuck not your boyfriend.
That was a very interesting week you had. We are going to go to me before we go to Jody.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Jay,
Go back to
go to
Jody.
me before go
load
to
up
Jay.
more shit. You got to do it twice.
All right, let's go.
I've been doing some more Baldur's Gate 3.
I watched Monday Night Raw.
There you go. I'm about halfway through Act 2, so I'm just about to get to Moonrise Towers and defeat the ultimate bad for
Seduce
this
the bard.
I don't think I've encountered a single bard that's like any type of like seductive or anything like that. So I must be playing the game wrong if that's the case.
You're probably playing the game wrong.
Besides that, me and Bianca, we've been watching a new cooking show. It is a Korean cooking contest called Culinary Class War.
I've seen that.
It's 80 up and coming young chefs in South Korea that are making names for themselves that don't go by their own names. They go by like their like a nickname that they give themselves. So like you have like cafeteria lady, you have the
I just thought
maniac
one
chef.
of them was just named cafeteria. Like that's fucking
that'll work.
Go, get to the point. There you
and
go.
it's 80 of them versus 20 of like the top chefs in the Korean region, world renowned success, Michelin star chefs and things like that. And it's the underdogs trying to overcome the already at the top of the mountain.
I love these Korean reality shows because for one they have like because I've seen that and Physical 100 and the dubbing is terrible for multiple reasons, mainly because they have like maybe 2 female dubbers and then like maybe 1 male dubber doing almost everything. And like every time on the chef show and on Physical 100, anytime someone walks in, be like, oh, that chef, you know, whatever his name is, and everybody knows who it is. It's like, come on, man, you don't know who that guy is.
I'm bumping in real quick. So the original Iron Chef from Japan. Shigesato Itoi. He's a Japanese essayist, philosopher, but he also is the main guy behind the Mother series, which we know is Earthbound over here. So he was a judge on Iron Chef, and he's describing a meal, and he's speaking very just kind of plainly, just like we're having a normal conversation. The American dubbing his voice made that sound like it was really creepy.
Yeah.
It's like, I love the way that the flavor spread across my mouth and filled me with. It's like, stop! Please stop! Just let Itoi talk.
There was a lot of that.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I don't.
There
doubt,
was a lot of that.
I don't doubt that.
But we're enjoying it.
It's interesting.
I enjoy. I generally enjoy cooking competitions, and so I've never seen a Korean one, so I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, the American like fair one sucks. It's not very. They'll go one with Jason Schwartzman.
Yeah,
I've watched like 2 or 3 episodes of it. I cannot get into it.
I'm not touching that one.
It's not good. It's not good at all. They try to be the American version of British Bake Off, and it's like you are not Paul Hollywood. You're not Prue. You're not Noel. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
It's more so
some of you people who are listening like those names mean something to you.
Yeah.
So
I'll talk about Noel Fielding real quick, because Noel Fielding, probably in America, like at least on internet circles, you probably know him as Old Greg. He was the guy who played Old Greg, but he is
Mighty Boosh.
He is one of the he is I think the presenter for a Great British Bake Off.
He has been for the past like 5 or so years.
Yeah, and funny comedian, absolutely hilarious. But the funniest thing he ever was involved in, and I have to go immediately and say allegedly here. There's a show on BBC called Never Mind the Buzzcocks.
Yeah.
And at this point, he was a sub host on the show because they have 2 teams, and he's the leader of one of the teams. And I believe it's Simon Amstel was the host.
Yeah.
And they were talking about Courtney Love. Now, Noel Fielding is friends with Courtney Love. And they start talking about it, and so I was like, I'm not gonna. I thought about doing an Amstel impression, but he goes, it's like, oh no, you're friends with friends with. You think you meet it? And she like, she would crush you. And Simon Amstel goes, yeah, either that or kill me and make it look like suicide. Immediately they go to they had him center frame. They go to a wide shot of the entire studio and go, disclaimer, this is not actually true. Like this is just a legend. Like just like straight up. They went straight to, and Noel Fielding that's one of the few times
Oh my God.
I've seen him shocked legitimately shocked.
Right.
But
That's great.
so it's like
Oh god. So the last thing I've been doing is there's this band called Sleep Token. Okay, they have an album.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about.
Strangest thing. They came out with Caramel about 2 weeks ago. I've been listening to that, and this week they came out with Damocles. Man, this is gonna be the saddest album I've ever listened to.
It probably is, yeah.
It is. Think the high, like the adrenaline and the soothing jazz of Emergence is crashing down in moods when it comes to Caramel and Damocles. And man, do I both feel like the villain and I'm heartbroken.
Yeah, the album's going to come out on the 9th of May.
oh wow, I thought that was June. Okay, so that's okay.
May.
I already have the album pre-saved on Spotify.
Do you think that music store is going to do another midnight?
I need to go by there and see if he can like pre-order it.
If they
roll
are
the
doing
dice.
something, I would love to do something over there.
I will say this. So I'm not going to mention it because this is kind of a middle of the road review, and a lot of it though is about. We a lot of us, I don't say a lot of us, a bunch in the friend group had pre-ordered Skeleta, and there was going to be a midnight release, and it was like, oh, this is going to be cool. They didn't get it for the midnight release, and what caught me was that when we got over there, it was like 11:45. Like it was about, because I'd asked you to go.
I
with
dropped
Ethan,
off Jody last week,
and so I get over there, and there's like, I want to say like 30 people in line. And when we got in, the venue was big enough to fit 20 of us. And I was right next to the stacks. Like he's got PV stacks that go PV the bass. I want to PV the whole the amplifier. Excuse me.
yeah.
The stacks go all the way to the fucking ceiling.
Yeah.
And if you've ever listened to Kaiserian right next to a wall PV stack, oh my fucking god! It was what I loved about the event though. Like most of the crowd was like 22 to 30. It was a young crowd that was really into the fucking music, and I appreciated that fucking energy. I absolutely did. I wish we could have got the album.
Yeah.
But having that crowd there, that was actually a pretty cool thing.
What kind of things did they have going on there?
They had party favors. They had the Papa hat. They had posters. They had the stamps, the crucifix stamps for your album, which you couldn't get. So they were just crucifixing stuff. And so that was pretty cool. And then the giveaway was 2 of the Impera Maze box sets, which are just gigantic. And so that was cool. He made up for the most of a bad situation. Like if you're going to a midnight release, you want the music. You want the music. It was cool to hear the album in its entirety. And I'll go a little bit more into that once it gets over to me.
Yeah.
But man, I am in love with the few songs that we are getting from the album.
They've only put out 3 songs, and which I actually like because I did feel like Take Me Back to Eden. It's like half the album they released before it actually came out, and it was literally like they went song 1, 2, 3, and they released them in that order. So I like just having some kind of singles. Yeah. But this is a
little taste.
It is absolutely sad and heartbreaking, but it fills me with joy with how good of the quality is.
Most of these songs that they've released is about kind of them becoming famous but not being known. If that makes any sense.
The backlash when it comes to fame.
Yeah.
Basically.
The name of the album is going to be Even in Arcadia. and it comes from there's a Latin phrase called "et in Arcadia ego," which means even in Arcadia there I am, which means even in paradise there is death. And it actually comes from Virgil's Eclogues. So, so yeah, they got some deep kind of cuts and lore in this one. So yeah, I'm seriously looking forward to it. I hope that I can pre-order and get the album. I missed a couple of pre-orders when they had when certain websites had different editions, but yeah.
I am ready for the album to drop.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
That's been me. Jay, not Jody. Jay, we go to you.
Okay. So sorry, Jody, for doubling up on you. But start off. Finally got the Lore Masters deck, which is the 3 parts of the Story Engine deck series: the Story Engine deck, the World Builder, and the Lore Masters deck. We dabbled with it a bit today. I like the creativity. It pulls out.
It's pretty cool.
It's really nice.
I'm very happy with the notion behind the thing. If you open the box up, create something before you close it back up. And we had a chance to do that tonight. And I really like the construction process better with the Lore Masters deck so far. I still love the fact that I have the Story Engine deck because it allows me to create in different areas. So
yeah,
very happy.
It's a more layered and complex version of something that's been around for a short period of time. They have storyteller dice, which just have a bunch of nouns and actions and verbs and shit on them, and you just roll them and then try and make something happen.
Yeah,
but I really like the way it's set up for just starting a story or a chapter of something or a campaign.
Yeah, I've started to like things like that, especially when it comes to RPGs. I like a lot of the RPGs that I've been getting into lately. It's all okay, roll on all these tables and you'll get your traits and you'll get what you look like and you'll get all this stuff, and it's up to you to it's not coming up with something, it's melding this together into a cohesive thing for you to role play. Right. And I've liked the idea of using stuff like that and these decks of cards to
work within the construct of a prompt.
Yeah, to create prompts, because sometimes it can be hard to come up with stuff off the top of your head.
Oh yeah, because you're trying to come up with something original, which is nigh impossible, but put a twist on it at least.
But I in our Mouse River game, I don't think Jay would ever have chosen to be a sap tapper.
Right. Right.
So yeah. But yeah,
it's a great
thing
tool.
Was pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh,
and it's Lore Master's deck, and then the other one is what?
The Story Engine deck, and then you have the World Builder deck. And the thing that I really love about this is I'm creating. I'm no longer in a rut where the same kind of things that I've been doing. It's breaking me out of that and making me consider new ideas. Yeah. Instead of picking a card, I've got the card here. Let me see what kind of peaks and just go with there. In 2022, Gameloft produced a remake of the Oregon Trail. I purchased it last week because it was on sale on Steam. Very good. They did a fantastic job with it. It feels like if you played the old Oregon Trail back in the day, it's definitely that. One of my favorite versions of that is called Death Road to Canada, where you're traveling from Florida to Canada to get to the last bastion of living people as you're going through a zombie apocalypse, which I think is very, very cool. This version is fantastic. I love the additional challenge maps that they have. There's a lot of bells and whistles on that. I made my way right after Fort Independence. Somebody tried to rob the stagecoach. I'm I've got guns and ammo. I'll be fine. So it's no, fuck you. And then he just walked up to my banker and punched her to death. And so we were down a man immediately. And it was okay, I see how this is going to end. It's final leg. We're about to start the final leg. We're heading to Willamette Valley. We're heading to Oregon. The first thing that happens is a fucking black bear runs up and beats the shit out of my gunner. And so now I can't hunt for food in the mountains.
Damn.
Because they broke his fucking arm. What the fuck? Jesus Christ. So just the first, and then when he, so we got to send somebody out. Oh, by the way, hunting. Here's how you hunt for food. If you see a bison charging at you, you go directly in the direction right at him and you shoot him in the face. That's how you fucking hunt in fucking the Oregon Trail by Gameloft. I've enjoyed the game. There's a silliness to it. There is a respectfulness to it, to American history, especially for Native American history. They make a point of that in the beginning. I think they did a really good job in sealing that gap. I think they did a very good job there. it gets a recommendation from me if you like this type of game. If you don't, it's not going to have nothing. It has nothing that's going to appeal to you past that, except maybe the chat. I will say this: there's the river raft mini game at the end if you can't make the toll road. That one is pretty fun. That's a little bit different from the regular stuff, but for the most part, if you're not into this stuff, no. But if you are, I recommend it. I'm going to break up my music reviews because I have a secret topic to talk about in between them. Oh. I finally finished the 22-track monstrosity, but not monster, of Hurry Up Tomorrow. This year's released by The Weeknd. This gets, if you're a fan of The Weeknd, this gets my highest recommendation. This pairs with me with After Hours. Dawn FM was good, but to me, it's like the amount on here, just the volume of it, which is 22 tracks, but the amount of good volume on here is just fantastic. Open Hearts is probably my favorite track from this. Timeless, which I think is the biggest track that came out of this, I think that's very well done. I love how it finishes up with Hurry Up Tomorrow, which is the title track for the entire album. There's a track called Sao Paulo. I mentioned this in my first impressions. It's Brazilian funk, and it's really well done. The name of the DJ is Anitta. Just an absolutely... It goes from like Cry For Me, which is to me is your standard weekend fare, and then all of a sudden you've got Brazilian beats hitting you in the face. I'm like, holy shit. So this is an exceptional album. If you're a fan of The Weeknd, my highest recommendation. If you're not sure about The Weeknd, this is a jump on. This is his style, and he's also like Playboy Cardi is on Timeless. Reflections Laughing is his one with Travis Scott and Florence and the Machine. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a sell for me.
It's a little bit of our Futures on one of the tracks. He's got some really good features on this. I like the kind of maybe full circle for him because you have Escape from LA on After Hours, and then you have Take Me Back to LA on this album. So he is a very personal songwriter.
100%.
Like the things he's going through, one of my favorite quotes, I was going to say, it's like, it's been like 10 or 15 years and The Weeknd is still calling people at 5:00 in the morning.
Right.
Like it's just, that's something that just kind of falls through everything.
Right.
There's one, I don't know if he recorded a phone call or if it's a phone call that was done like to be theatrical about this, but that was a big, I can't remember. I don't think it's from Give Me Mercy. I can't remember which one it is now. God damn it. It might've been from Reflections Laughing, actually, now that I think about it. Great, but absolutely great album. Love it to death. Rookie Watch. So the latest episode as of this recording. So Ridley, who's been like the shit.
He's like a Rookie Watch button.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I could do to make it Rookie Watch worthy because the rookie worthy. Let me say it right there. So Ridley is been the fuck up new guy on the team, and he'd gotten fired because he wouldn't take a blood test to prove that he had cancer. You know what? No context. But he sued the department, and now he's back in the program, and they hand him over to John Nolan. Now, John Nolan, played by Nathan Fillion, that character's mother was a pathological liar, and his rookie is a pathological liar. So he is like, listen, you done fucked up, son. This is not a fucking new game. I know exactly all about you. I know all the fucking lies you've told.
Everybody fucking hates this guy.
The fans hate him. Everybody in the show hates him. He gets in a fight with the other rookie that's actually been doing well, and it's like, oh my god. It's like, so what are they going to do with this character? Is this going to be like his fall into supervillainry? And I mean that legitimately. They're legitimate supervillains in this show. And when they show back up, I will talk about them more. Or is he gonna have his redemption moment? Like, is this his redemption? They blew his fucking leg off. They blew off his fucking leg. It's like, and then his fiance dumps him after his leg got blown off.
God damn.
Oh, he got Zack Rydered.
Yes. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? What the fuck? Job is like, man, that's rough.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing to that poor boy? It's like, goddamn. Like, he saves John Nolan, but he gets his leg blowed off for it. And then he tried, listen, my fiance, I'm sorry, I've been lying about everything, but we weren't a lie.
I knew I didn't have cancer.
I knew I didn't have cancer. I'm sorry. They were right about you. And she takes the fucking ring off and leaves it on his fucking bedpan or some shit. My God. And I was like, God, that's how much everyone hates Ridley.
Damn.
Wow.
Shouldn't have tried to get over on him by himself.
Didn't they get engaged within like?
They got engaged that episode.
Yeah.
Wow.
They got engaged that episode and it ended that episode.
Damn.
Also, if you watch The Rookie, you will discover something about the producers, writers, and hell, maybe even the cast. They really hate Gen Z. Like anytime Gen Z is on that show, it is the worst of Gen Z. They had a subplot in this episode with influencers like diving into LA water and all, and like driving their car into the lake and seeing how long they could drown in the
cancel
car.
Culture on the LAPD.
Trying to get LAP, and then like everybody that is under the age of 27 on that show is a fuck, basically. Except the main cast. If you're on the main cast, you're fine. But if you're like guest starring or you're like the subplot, you're just fucking. This is the same show that had like the under 27 social media expert for LA start The Purge. It was fucking amazing. So that's Rookie Watch for this week. And now back to music. So there's this band. They're called Ghost. They had a
Never
release,
heard of them.
Who are they?
They had a release this week. Maybe you haven't heard of that either. It was Skeleta. I believe this is their 6th regular LP that they have put out. I have been through it several times now, and I can honestly say, if you are a fan of Ghost, highly recommend you pick this up now.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not a fan and you're looking into them, I don't think this is a jumping on. I don't think this is a jumping on point for Ghost. I would prefer you to get either the one of the three that we've done, either Meliora, Prequel, or Impera. Probably Impera, because it's closer to what they're doing now.
Right.
That being said, even though that's kind I enjoyed this album start to finish. It's very strange. I don't know if it's me versus regular Ghost fans but a lot of the songs that I put at the top of the list on this album, people are putting at the bottom of the list. Guiding Lights is my favorite track from this album because the line, the path to nowhere is long, and I can't remember. No, the road that leads to nowhere is long. That and when he says the words guiding lights, I think that's great. Meanwhile, people are like crawling over Missilia Amore, which is Love Rockets, and I think that's the dumbest song on the fucking album. That's just me, maybe. I just know. Everything else is great. Missilia Amore is my one, like that one's a little too on the head. I get there's a goofiness to Ghost in some of their songs. That one was a little bit too much, but also I will say of the 6 regular Ghost albums, Peacefield is my favorite opener. I don't consider Rats the opener for Prequel because it starts with Ashes and then it goes into that. Peacefield starts with like one of the best like choir songs I think I've ever heard on a rock album, and then it goes straight into like when he bites down on Black Moon over the Peacefield, like fantastic. Again, if you like Ghost, this is a must. High recommendation. If you're looking to get into Ghost, pick up something earlier and then come into this if you like that. That's my take on that. Go for that.
I've only been able to listen to it once, and I really didn't give it the due it's deserved. I think I really haven't put a lot of time with it, but like my initial impressions are, I didn't like this one as much as some of their other albums. Like there was a lot of Impera that I liked, but that one kind of lost me towards the end of the album. This one, it's like there's only really like the singles and Peacefield that really stuck out to me.
And Peacefield has a single now too.
Yeah. There's a video out for it, but it really most of the album to me so far. And again, hopefully next week I'll have listened to it. I got a chance to listen to it some more to kind of get to give it another chance. Because sometimes when I'll listen to an album initially and then go back to it, it gets better oftentimes, especially if it's something that a band that I like. But I feel like this is, I kind of feel like some of the people who are commenting saying that like this is kind of a stagnation for Ghost are kind of there or kind of on point. But again, I'm gonna try and listen to it at least a couple more times to try and crystallize my thoughts. But that's my initial feelings so far.
Let me ask you this: Is the theme wearing thin for you? Is that something that's at play here?
I do feel like there's like evolution through most of from one album to the other, and this one is it doesn't feel like it. Feels like they're just continuing what they did in Impera.
I was about it. Like, if they had called this Impera 2, would you?
No, because because I don't want Impera. I like it when
But what I'm saying is, this feels like this feels like
it kind of does.
Like not their sixth album, but a follow up to their fifth album.
It kind of feels it does kind of feel like that.
Okay.
And that wouldn't help with anything. But I still like I like a lot of the songs. I like that a few of the songs on there a lot. But this one just like it didn't wow me all that much. But I'll be honest, like Impera didn't like super wow me, but I really ended up liking it. Prequel is kind of the same way. So I don't think it was a bad album. I just think there's a little I can feel a little stagnation setting in. Like I might seriously start to worry if like I don't feel like there's an evolution in their next album, whenever that comes out. So but again, like that it's initials because besides the singles, I've only listened to like all the other songs like once. Peacefield I've listened to a couple of times because I really like that, but I haven't listened to like that. I haven't like given the album a go through but once. So like I said, hopefully I'll if my feelings change or anything like that, I will definitely report that hopefully next week.
All right.
So yeah,
that is it for me, brother.
Jay, do we have any feedback?
No feedback this week, except the feedback in my ears from the record release that didn't release, because Jesus Christ, those stacks are right next to my ear.
1,000 watt amps right next to your ear.
Yeah.
just
After going to a few concerts, I had to get like those really high
earplugs.
Yeah.
those high quality, and they're not like super expensive, but those high quality earplugs that like still let sound through, but they just lower it without that's I would have had to, if I would have known that I would have worn those.
Yeah.
If I went, I would have worn those.
I'll say this for the Google Pixel. I've recorded a little bit just to kind of like this is what I'm in the middle of.
Oh yeah.
Picked up everything with no distortion. I was hearing distortion live. I don't know if there's some filter on. So good on you, Google Pixel. I appreciate.
Oh yeah, the video sounded good.
Yeah. So there you go. But anyway, where was it? Feedback. No feedback. But ladies and gentlemen, if you do have feedback on this or any of our previous episodes on Travelers, that is going to be travelersontheomnibus at gmail.com. Again, that is Travelers, 1L, on the omnibus at gmail.com. Jody Kite, how else may they contact us?
Spotify.
Yes, take part in any of our polls for any of our current or past episodes that are still active. And if you want to leave a comment there, you can absolutely leave a comment on Spotify. Also, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being passengers on the bus tonight, tomorrow, or today. If you would like to share this, whatever we're going to call it this week, Jay blanked on things.
Fantasy.
Jay may cut this out, but it'll be funnier to keep it in. If you'd like to share this with anybody, we are available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, YouTube Music through our YouTube channel, Travelers on the Omnibus, and iHeartRadio.
Gentlemen, we're at the halfway point. Let's jump into some fantasy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for returning to the second half of this episode. This month, we are diving into the genre of fantasy. We are unofficially calling it, or officially calling it, May's Fantasies. I don't think we've coined the term yet.
I wanted to call it Fantasy March in May, because I couldn't remember what month it was.
Could be amazing fantasy.
Amazing fantasy.
I don't want to be sued by Steven Spielberg.
That's true.
Something to do with the month of May and the fantasy genre. That's what we're going to be
I like
talking
the
about.
alliteration of Fantastic Fantasy Month, but that's just me.
Yeah, that's
We're just all gonna call it a different.
We're all gonna
name.
call it our own
and
series.
we could take it as F3, and therefore we don't get sued by Marvel. There we go.
Yep, there we go. But yes, this is going to be the first episode of 4 where we dive into the fantasy genre. This week, we are going to be talking about the reflections of fantasy. So, more so childhood memories with the genre.
Personal experiences,
how we got into liking different fantasy medias, either video games, TV shows, movies. And it's just a general roundtable discussion. You three are much older than I.
No kidding.
So, I'm sure y'all will have much more experiences than I do.
It'll just be different.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. I will say this: I'm more in sci-fi for the most part. I do have interest in the fantasy genre, but most of my interests are science fiction, Star Trek, Dune, Star Wars, things of that nature. So, and like you can maybe label a Star Wars as a science fantasy, so there might be some crossover there. But yeah, for the most part, you may have more because like. Aragon is one of your favorite books. I don't really have a favorite fantasy series. In fact, if anything, let me start off with this reflection. I was turned off for a while on fantasy after I started reading Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, and that book series became painfully unreadable. And so, there's some like one of the things like fantasy fall-offs where it's like, oh, this was cool, and then it just slowly ground to
things
a
that
fucking
turned
halt.
you away from the genre.
I don't have the same connection to people to the Lord of the Rings as other people do. I've gone on record saying The Two Towers is one of the worst movies I've ever watched. Let me say it like this. It's one of the worst movie watching experiences I've ever had because it is very long and very boring for me. So there's a lot of stuff that I revile against fantasy. Now that being said, of course we have we've done Nine Princes of Amber. We've been doing the Chronicles of Amber. That is definitely in the fantasy genre and things like that. But yeah, you may have much more reflection on fantasy because you've gone out and experienced more with it. It's not necessarily an age thing. There could be people that it could be like 85 years old and all they think they like is like real historicals and biographies.
I think it just depends on like, what you were exposed to at a young age, especially, if you were allowed to cultivate a love of that also at a young age without being scrutinized.
Yeah.
For me personally, and since we're talking about personal experiences, like I didn't have the same opportunities to read fantasy. I didn't have any opportunities to read fantasy because I grew up in a very like strict Christian fundamentalist household. However,
I've never heard of this before. You haven't
This is
mentioned this
completely
once.
new and shocking.
However, I was lucky enough to catch especially some pivotal moments on television over at my grandmother's house. And so because it was a quote unquote cartoon and it was on at night, I was able to watch The Hobbit when it aired on television on CBS in 1977. And so I was exposed to it. Now, I was so young at the time. I was like 5 or 6, depending on the month and everything. And so I remember watching it, but at the time and going back to, I don't remember anything about it except the way it looked.
Yeah.
But I did remember seeing it, and I remember more over the years because they would replay it because it did cost them money.
Yeah.
So they did have to show it quite often. But I remember being exposed to The Hobbit, at least to that visual medium of that animated film, and sporadically through mainly cable television with things like, HBO would get like, again, before, and this, we spoke about this before, or I did on when we were talking about video, the videotape format in the early days, before the videotape format like became a thing and there was a Blockbuster on every corner. Cable television, especially paid cable television, would get movies like within the year sometimes. So I got to experience Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, and Fire and Ice, Frank Frazetta and Ralph Bakshi's Fire and Ice at a young age. So I was exposed to a lot of the visual medium of fantasy. But again, I wasn't really allowed to read sci-fi or fantasy or horror until I was like 14, 15 when I started like buying used books without them knowing about
Well,
it.
yeah, like definitely, even like when I was a kid, and I do want to piggyback. Like The Hobbit was a big thing for me. I rented I experienced that by renting it.
Mhm.
The old
Right.
Rankin and Bass Hobbit, I rented a lot, and I watched a lot.
Mhm.
But there wasn't like the young adult fantasy, or
Didn't
really young
really
adult
exist.
mostly
It didn't exist.
exist.
It didn't.
That came along later.
You had
So when
Yeah.
I was young, like reading fantasy was never like a
Right.
thing, unless it was like you had some series like the Magic Tree House or stuff like that, where that is kind of a fantasy thing.
for me, it didn't exist at all.
Well,
Like
yeah.
young adult fantasy didn't exist at all.
But yeah, and even that's like a preteen book series. That's not
Right.
even like a
Anything that would come close to that, I would say would be like, even though it's science fiction, would be like the Jules Verne or
Yeah.
H.G. Wells kind of stuff. Like they had that for sci-fi, but there really wasn't that for fantasy in the 70s and the early 80s.
It was like Lord of the Rings. That was kind of what you had.
It was either like
that was
fantasy,
common.
It was either
but
like
even then, it wasn't
Right.
like super common until the movie.
it like the Hobbit is like the lightest version of that. Like at the time period. And they really skewed, like there was a line where it was hard for them to like Fire and Ice is really adult.
Yeah.
Even though it's rated
baggy.
quote unquote PG.
Yeah.
And Wizards, we've talked about Wizards before. Wizards I didn't see till I was much older.
Yeah.
But that's also very adult with very adult themes. Even though it's quote unquote animated film and it was rated PG at the time as well. But yeah, there wasn't the same opportunities for me as there were for like Ethan. Probably had a lot of more opportunities than I did. As far as,
like even like there wasn't a lot of my experience with fantasy growing up was mostly through movies. There weren't a lot of fantasy TV shows that I would like that I would have liked.
There
as a
weren't
kid.
many fantasy TV shows. Period.
Yeah.
In my time period.
Because like I was after like I watched like He-Man and all those things, but that was after me, and that's kind of a mixture of sci-fi and fantasy.
Right.
But that's like the closest thing. It was mostly there was a lot of like science fiction or action shows, really.
Right.
There wasn't a whole lot of like fantasy stuff. It was mostly like movies and stuff.
Yeah, because like for me, really quick, we're speaking about personal experiences, and we talked about this. But I'll briefly talk about like the most popular shows for kids and adults during like the late 70s through the mid 80s were shows like Dukes of Hazzard and like all the adult dramas and things like that.
Yeah.
And Knight Rider in the mid 80s and all that. You didn't really have that. Wasn't really a thing. I think it was probably mainly due to like just interest in cost.
Yeah.
It's just like the zeitgeist of mainstream, nerd culture was non-existent at that point. So
Well, yeah, it hadn't become like mainstream.
it had not.
I think like one of the biggest influences, like fantasy wise, for me, like one of the things that is it's Disney movies, like
That's fair.
Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Alice in Wonderland, all those
Yeah.
movies like that.
I guess I could say Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, I was exposed to that early.
The big one for me when it comes to Disney movies is The Sword and the Stone.
Yeah,
And
that's another
a
one.
really
Yeah.
great
And
one.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
It got me hooked on like medieval fantasy
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
when
Which
I
is
was
the classic.
Yeah. Mhm.
one of the like first things I actively remember reading is like the great illustrated classics that you get at like school libraries,
Mhm.
and it's
Yeah.
the
I
King
remember
Arthur and the
those.
Knights of the Round Table.
I remember
Okay,
those.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
reading that, watching Sword and Stone,
Yeah.
100 different times.
Yeah.
It got me hooked on like the medieval like knights on a quest, the
Mhm.
knight slaying the dragon,
Right.
rescuing
Yeah.
the princess,
Yeah.
and so it really hooked into me with the idea of a knight on a noble quest for his kingdom.
So when I was really, really young, and this brought something that I hadn't thought about
Mhm.
when I was writing like my notes and stuff. When I was very young, like around 6-ish, well, it was old enough, 6 or 7. Like I was old enough to be maybe it was like when I was around 8 or something like that. I was old enough to like be able to read this. It was a a short picture book, but it was St. George and the Dragon, and
gotcha.
it was beautifully illustrated, and it was
Right.
it was a fairly mature story. Like St. George dies multiple times in that, and he just gets brought back, and he gets fucked up, and he fucks up the dragon too. Like that was like I loved that book, and I read it all the time because I had never seen shit. What is it? Is that it? Yes, that is it. And it had like this classic looking dragon that looks so cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
He had like spikes on his tail. It was like really fucking cool.
Yeah. I like it.
But yeah, I read the hell out of that book so much, and that's probably like book one. I had a pop-up book of King Arthur. And that was really like that was really an interesting book, and it was also like kind of dark and bloody because it fucking there's a part in it where it has Arthur and Mordred killing each other, and you like pull on them to make them like stab each other, like Mordred stabbing Arthur with a spear, and Arthur's stabbing Mordred with a sword, and you like pull down on both of them to make them kind of go further into each other.
That's
wild. Like shit like that was wild. But yeah, you brought back some memory. I appreciate you bringing that up because those are things that like I didn't think about when I was a kid. Like those are book wise, those are probably like two of my stronger like fantasy memories from when I was young.
There was a movie I saw. I was like a young teenager. I was like 12, 13, something like that or whatever that I saw on HBO. And this is probably when me personally, I could see young adult fantasy kind of starting, at least in cinema, and that's Lady Hawk.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen Lady Hawk, but it's a really cool movie. It's like a young Matthew Broderick. It's like right before Ferris Bueller. And so it's got Rutger Hauer in it.
It's on Tubi.
Oh, is
course.
it? I know what I'm watching this weekend. So
You're gonna watch this as soon as I drop you off.
no, I got to work in the morning.
Oh, okay.
But so the story is Matthew Broderick basically plays a page to Rutger Hauer. And at night, Rutger Hauer turns into a wolf because he's cursed. During the day, the woman that he loves turns into a hawk, and they can never be together, right? Oh man, it's fantastic. And I shouldn't have been interested in it because for a 12-year-old, like it's really boring for a 12-year-old. It's not a 12-year-old movie, but a 12-year-old's kind of movie. But I don't know, I was just drawn to it because it was so different. Like it's so grounded because even though it's quote unquote it's fantasy, it's low ass fantasy. Like it's the fantasy where there's a curse. It's more of a fairy tale than it is actually, but it still has that fantasy feel to it. But it's grounded in medieval time period, and I just loved it so much and still do.
For me, when I was young, there was also 3 other big ones. There was The Last Unicorn. I didn't get to watch it as much when I was a kid as I wanted to, but that was always one that I.
That's
went
a really
back to.
good one.
I remember it used to. I swear to God, the copy that was in my one of the video stores, it was called The Red Bull and the Unicorn. It wasn't called The Unicorn.
Might have been an alternate title for VHS release or something.
I have never seen The Last Unicorn.
It's pretty
good.
good.
The Last Unicorn is pretty good.
It's pretty good.
The Last Unicorn song is kind of mad to me, but
it is.
But there was also there was the Never Ending Story.
Yeah,
the Never Ending Story we actually had on VHS.
That's
so
a
I
good
watched
one.
the ever loving shit out of that.
That's
one.
a good one.
And then another one that I loved but never got to watch a whole lot, and I eventually like bought it on DVD, but I haven't watched it still that much. But it's just to have Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland.
Oh yeah,
that's a weird ass movie.
it is.
But it enraptured me.
It was also lost in distribution for a while too.
Yeah, because it was this little kid. He gets to go and be the savior of this weird ass world.
It's
and,
a fever dream because the
Oh, yeah.
original cartoon is like French and from the 1800s or something.
Yeah, and
Like,
it's like comic strips. So like everything was like
it's wild.
so everything is like episodic in that.
Another one for me, like Jason the Lady Hawk, that came out about the same time was the Tom Cruise vehicle.
Oh,
Legend.
Legend. Legend. I've never actually got around to watching.
It's really good, actually. It is really, really good. And it's in that young adult fantasy kind of genre, which is another reason why it probably didn't make any money in 1985.
This is the one with Tim Curry as Darkness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Satan, basically.
Basically, he's Satan.
Yeah, they just couldn't call him that. There was also a I remember very vividly there was a cartoon version of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
There was. I saw it many times on HBO.
I can't remember. It was never on VHS, but I remember catching it and watching it a few times and being really enraptured.
It's
with
a really
that story.
trippy art style, too.
Oh, yeah. Especially like when they have
the Snow Queen, or
when they do when they kill Aslan, like that whole with like all the weird, because back in the day, like, because I watched you can tell like a lot of what I watched was like stuff from the 80s, really.
Right?
And a lot of those cartoons they really like went out there with some of their designs and stuff like that. Like there's some stuff in The Last Unicorn where it's like, yeah, that's it. There's some stuff in The Last Unicorn where that they're like, Jesus Christ, this is weird as shit.
Yeah.
But they all are like that. Like there were like all these demons and stuff in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe that is just like super weird.
So there's two movies, and they were trying to make a series out of it. And it was by the same animation studio that did Kimba the Lion. It is called Unico. There's like two of them. There's like Unico and the Magical Island, and then Unico and whatever.
Kimba was, I believe, Osamu Tezuka's.
It might have,
studio.
So, yeah, it's very cute looking, right?
Yeah.
He's a boy, by the way.
Okay.
The second movie, I'm gonna give a heavy spoiler out because nobody's gonna watch it. But the animation style is amazing in it. And in the second movie, this guy's basically like he's cursing people and turning them into stone and building a castle out of people. And near the end of the movie, Unico does something to undo the curse, but the castle starts crumbling down. Those are people. Those are people that are dying. That's my first thought. Like, yeah. So that both of those are wild. The premise of that movie is that Unico is also one of the last unicorns. And it's like a Greek thing. The Greek gods are jealous of him, so they send the four winds to go take him away. And so he's always running from the four winds. That's the whole gimmick of the...
I like the design of the evil wizard guy. He just cracks
That's
me
when
up.
he starts going crazy.
I don't know.
Yeah,
something about it, and like on like the illustrated like box art of it.
Yeah.
He's just up in like the top center, just pointing at you, the reader.
Bianca, by the way, if you showed those two movies to her, she would love you more for it because they are like super cute with some very dark themes. So
one movie that kind of like I watch a lot with like in coincide with Sword and Stone. The Page Master.
Oh, I remember watching The Page Master. I didn't love The Page Master for some reason, and I don't understand why I didn't.
I missed that. I'll tell you why. Because I missed that one because I was like, I think I was like 20 or something.
Came out in 94.
Yeah.
I was 22. So I didn't watch it when it came out, and it was one of those like bucket list movies that I'd never seen. And I finally found a copy because like it's also one of those like lost in distribution hell kind of movies. Because
but man, did every public school have a copy of it?
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, it doesn't hold up. It's a terrible movie.
Yeah.
It's got, and I know it's a kids movie, but kids movies still can have like not have plot holes.
Yeah.
Like Macaulay Culkin,
And
Christopher Lloyd in it.
it's the animation style's okay.
Yeah.
It's just okay, but the movie itself is terrible.
Yeah, I remember it not like I remember having problems with it even as a child, like of like the point A to point B plotting of
The
it
plot makes no sense. Yeah.
felt really off.
And if you're
And
older than
it's bad enough to that like I as a young child, I think I was like 8-ish.
Kids can pick up on shit, man. I'm telling you.
But
it was
but I liked a lot of this. Like I liked the books, and I liked, hey, let's go through different genres of fiction.
Right.
Like, hey, that's right up my, and Macaulay Culkin. I was all about that shit.
Patrick Stewart voiced the pirate book.
Oh yeah. The pirate book. Okay,
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah.
Adventure.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And it's Whoopi Goldberg was fantasy, right?
And Frank Welker was horror.
Yeah, that makes
Frank
sense.
Welker was
Of
in
course,
everything.
Of course, Frank Welker.
Leonard Nimoy was Dr. Jekyll.
No, I didn't know he was in
Nice.
that. I knew Christopher Lloyd.
A little bit later for me, like Hook came out, and that was
Hook.
yeah,
That's another
I love
one.
yeah.
Hook.
Yeah, people talk about like that's a bad movie, but
I
man,
love it.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
I just watched a video that was like a retrospective of it, and even like as a kid, the kind of boring parts in the beginning, like I still enjoyed those. But like, god damn, those were some of the best sets that were ever been created. Like Jesus Christ,
Dustin Hoffman at his best too. Like
Dustin Hoffman
yeah.
and Smee.
Robin Williams always has a soft spot.
Do you know
in
that
my
they
heart.
played it? Him and Bob Hoskins played it as like they were a gay couple. They were like, we're just gonna play this like we're a gay couple.
That makes sense.
Watch it again.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, of
Yeah,
course, yeah,
yeah.
duh.
Smee, you got to stop me. I'm gonna shoot. I'm gonna do it.
Don't
Smee.
you stop me! Don't stop me! Stop me, Steve! Stop me!
I'm this close, Smee.
Captain Hook almost commits suicide in that movie. Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Watch that as a kid. Another big one for me when I was young was Fern Gully. Watched the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Really all of those like there was a lot of like non-Disney stuff that I did watch. You know, the what's his name? Dom
Bluth?
Don Bluth.
Don Bluth.
Oh yeah. All dogs go to
For
heaven.
some reason, because Dom DeLuise is in so many of his shit, like they
that
and their names are close together, like it they run together, and I have to
one
stop
was in
myself.
Cannonball Run, the other one animated Secret of Nim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Dom DeLuise was in a lot of
He
Don
was.
Bluth movies.
He was. I think he was in the Aristocats as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he played the cat with the big fucking white whiskers, or I'm thinking of something else.
He was the cat in Five Goes West.
That was the
Tale
one
movie.
I was
in
thinking.
all the American Tale movies, he was in that one.
Didn't Don Bluth do those too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did. Yeah, he personally did the first one. I
Yeah.
don't think he did. There was like two more. And he didn't do those. But yeah, like Brave Little Toaster is also another one that's that's really I watched the shit out of.
Fucked up movie.
Really fucked up movie.
The first one especially.
Oh man,
The first one especially, which is
I
hard
watched
to
an air
find the
conditioner
first one.
commit suicide,
Yeah,
and it made me think sad thoughts.
So that movie falls into distribution hell because it was made by another company, but Disney distributed it, but Disney doesn't own it, which is why it's not on Disney Plus.
Yeah, back in the day, they Disney would distribute a
Yeah.
lot of movies,
Right. Like the
but
Ghibli.
not actually
like Ghibli.
Yeah,
You know.
Dom DeLuise was not in the Aristocats. He was
Okay.
in
I was thinking
it was
of
just
five.
in American
Is what-
American Tale and
American
Five Goes
Tale,
West.
All Dogs Go to Heaven 1 and 2.
I do remember
Yeah.
All Dogs.
Secret of Nim.
Yeah.
He
in
was
there.
Itchy in All Dogs Go to Heaven, I believe, or he was Carface. I can't remember. But yeah, I think something interesting.
He was itchy.
He was itchy. Yeah, I think something interesting with you, Ethan, is that you got to grow up in a time where like fantasy was becoming more mainstream because of two specific things. One of which I loathe to talk about for various reasons, but the Lord of the Rings movies, and then the Harry Potter movies.
Right.
The first
Also
Lord of
the
Rings came out in,
the backlog of fantasy stuff that it came before that as well. He had access to.
Yeah, but like
yeah.
these were the things that like
These
were really like the
cultural
things that brought
touchstones.
it,
They
that
were
brought it
cultural touchstones.
into mainstream.
Yeah.
Because before that, really,
Yeah.
like it was more seen. Like if you read Lord of the Rings, like
You were a fucking uber nerd.
you were a super nerd,
You were the other nerds would like fucking pants you.
and they were hard to find. And once the movies came out, like the Lord of the Rings books were
Available
everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Gas stations were selling them shits.
That's true.
But yeah, I think those were like the two things that kind of really brought it in.
They were
and
definitely
changed
big-
how people
big moments.
I wasn't entirely big on Lord of the Rings.
I wasn't entirely big on Harry Potter until the fourth movie came out.
I watched the second Hobbit movie, which piqued my interest,
Well,
Interesting.
That's surprising.
which made me want to go back and watch the original trilogy.
Yeah.
I started Star Wars in the second movie.
Well, I watched the first Star Wars movie I remember watching was Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I watched Empire Strikes Back first.
Episode 2 or episode 4?
Episode
Technically.
2.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Episode. Wait a minute. So
I mean, episode
Empire's
5.
episode 5.
Episode
Episode
5.
5. Yeah,
Empire is episode
episode
5.
Yeah.
Jesus
Fucking
Christ.
the order of shit fucking confuses
Yeah.
me.
Yeah,
Second made 5th in the series.
Yes.
Yes.
I
Okay.
saw the second made movie
Okay, there we go.
because it came out in 81.
So you actually really
Or 80.
really got.
I came into
You didn't
Lord
get
of the
to see
Rings.
like Lord of the Rings as it happened,
No.
like the movie wise at least.
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a big
Not really,
cultural touchstone that
It
made
was.
like.
all the money.
If it wasn't for those, like nobody would even know what the Silmarillion is,
it
except
also-
for like the deepest of
Well,
nerds.
crazy, and I don't want to stick on Lord of the Rings for too much longer because we've got so many other things to talk about.
Yeah.
But the timing of that in the middle of the tragedy that had happened just a month prior, or 2 months prior, because September 11th happens,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
in
yeah.
November, Lord of the Rings comes out.
Yeah.
So people needed that movie.
Yeah.
And it made all the money for the right reasons.
yeah, that definitely broke our brains.
Yeah. It was fucking it was needed. It was needed so badly. But yeah, so there's that.
Jay, do you have any inputs on things so far?
So, what? Two things. First, the only J.R.R. Tolkien book that I recall being in St. Martin High School's library was the Silmarillion. They did not have the. They didn't have the trilogy. They
That
didn't
is
have the Hobbit.
weird.
Yeah, but they had the Silmarillion.
That's a strange.
that
yeah,
was
choice.
some librarian was like, "This is my favorite book, so we got to have it in
there
there."
you go.
Um,
But they had a bunch of they had like every book in the Chronicles of Ambrupt, which I think actually that would have
That's
been
interesting,
that would have
too.
been
That's
all,
also
that would have been
a
all
thing.
of them.
Yeah.
Well, by 95.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been all of them.
Yeah.
So for me, fantasy for me has never hit as hard in movies,
Mm-hmm.
in television. I will say this: give the devil its due, so that you can't say you didn't pay them. One of the smart things that J.K. Rowling did was grow those books up along with the children that were reading.
Yeah.
them.
Right, of course.
I think that you got to give credit there, and we can just move on from
Mhm.
that. But books, television, movies, none of that ever affected me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then I played The Legend of Zelda on my Nintendo.
Right.
Yeah.
That is for me.
Yeah.
Fantasy, with few exceptions,
Mhm.
starts and ends with The Legend of Zelda.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is a tale retold so many
It
times.
is.
You can that timeline, the timeline that they eventually had to create because people had to know. So where does this move? Because one of the hardest things about that is the first thing you had Zelda and then Zelda 2, so you have a actual follow through that this is
Yeah.
what's going on here. But for the Legend of Zelda, it's exploration, it's fantasy races, it's monsters, it's a overall big bad. It pulls
Good triumphs evil.
Well, not always. One of the timelines
Well,
is
yeah.
Ganon beat Link, and then you have the whole side of it. There's a bit more seriousness there than I think people give it credit for. I think there's more depth to it than I think a lot of people give it credit
Yeah.
for. Yeah, it starts and ends there. I have played every Nintendo on a Nintendo system Zelda game that has ever been put out.
I like that you had to say that. That's
Yeah,
funny.
no, you have to. I can't say I've played Faces of Evil and I've beaten it, but I've not played Zelda's Adventure and I've not played the Wand of Gamelon.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I
That's
can't
a
say
Philips
that.
CDI game.
Those are the Philips CDI games.
Wow.
I've played the Faces of Evil and beaten it.
Right.
I haven't played the other two.
Right.
But every single mainline game that has come out on a Nintendo system, I have played every single one of them.
Yeah.
The DS games, like having to get them on the DS, but Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks.
Yeah.
I
enjoyed Spirit
I love the
Tracks.
quirkiness of the mobile games.
Mhm.
Link's Awakening stands out from almost the entire rest of the
Yeah.
series, except that the mobile games allow for quirkiness and for experimentations in gameplay and playstyle. I
Right.
think of Four Swords Adventure. I think of Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, which were designed by Capcom.
Wow.
Which is something people don't realize. There have been instances where they've taken stuff and handed off to a company that knew what they were doing with it. Capcom did a fantastic job on Oracle Seasons, Oracle of Ages.
Yeah. Link's Awakening is the big one for me. Like that's the big start.
Well, when they remade that one for the Switch, that was an automatic first day.
Yeah.
I had to purchase that one. I had to.
I do need to get that one for nostalgic reasons because I do love that game. But Link's Awakening, that's probably video game wise, that's probably my first experience of fantasy.
To me, it's Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
Well,
first and last choice.
Yeah.
There were a few. For me, it was like on the original Nintendo, there was Zelda. There was also Faxanadu, and there was quite a few like Greek themed, but not fantasy themed. You didn't have to. You had Rygar, but that was like more of the kind of Conan the barbarian.
I knew one of us was going to eventually make that mistake on this.
Yeah,
I knew it. The Conan the Barbarian.
There was a big like that type of like
the boom happened on the Super Nintendo for those games.
That like Howard. Yeah. Even with
I mean, if we're talking the Super Nintendo era, first of all, you have the Legend of Zelda, but then there's this series, at least in the United States, that really doesn't get big until 2/4 shows up, and it's Final Fantasy. Because when you get into the RPGs there, and you get that. I don't like this. I don't like the game, but Chrono Trigger. You get the Mother series in Japan. So you get I think this is the second time it's been mentioned today. But you have. And the differences between high and low fantasy.
Right.
That's a fantasy.
There's also the Mana series.
And the Mana series
that starts coming out.
Yeah. Which in Japan is the Seiken Densetsu series.
Yeah. There's also other like obscure games like Arcana and Solstice.
Well, when we get to like Genesis, there's also like Altered Beast.
Altered Beast.
That's high Greek fantasy.
Greek fantasy.
Welcome to your doom.
Yeah, I remember playing that with my brother. And
Greek fantasy.
Never could make it past the eye thing.
Yeah. Also, side note, Greek fantasy. Like there's a bit of that.
Oh yeah, that was a big one. Like if you weren't like Tolkien style fantasy, you were probably like Greek.
I love the fuck
basically.
out of that shit, especially like the first the Titans movie from the 80s.
Oh yeah.
That the rest of that title escapes me for some reason.
Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, Clash of the Titans, 1981.
Yeah. Well, you had all those Harryhausen movies. I also remember those.
Jason and the Argonauts.
Jason and the Argonauts was a big one. The Sinbad movie. I think it was it the Seven Voyages of Sinbad?
Yeah.
I remember getting freaked out because there was one part of that movie where they like turned this lady into a blue snake lady and was like really off-putting.
Yeah.
But like there's a lot of off-putting stuff that's actually in a lot of those,
especially the Harryhausen ones.
Jason and the Argonauts, the whole where he salts the field with the Hydra teeth and they fucking grow skeletons.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Going back to video games real fast. To me, one of the biggest like modern fantasy games, it would be a disservice if I did not say Skyrim. It is like
Elder Scrolls.
Elder
Scrolls.
Scrolls.
You can go back to Arena, Daggerfall, Oblivion. Like that entire series. Morrowind.
They just dropped that remake out of nowhere recently.
I'm seeing a lot of high praise on the remaster of Oblivion.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's awesome. Maybe eventually I'll get to play it.
Those games just aren't my bag. It's too open, and I don't like the look of the combat because it looks like you're just like swinging a sword, and like it doesn't feel, you don't really feel anything when you.
A contemporary of that is like, at least in the first two with Arena and Daggerfall, would be Ultima Underworld 1 and 2, where it's like that was, and we're talking at the dawn of the 3D first person era of games.
Yeah.
And that for the time, at least those two, I'll co-sign on this. I didn't like Morrowind. It's too open. There's too many
really, I will say this for Bethesda stuff, and I don't know why, but like for some reason, Tears of the Kingdom, I think maybe it's just the Zelda name kind of good.
Yeah.
I am more willing to accept that in a Zelda game than I am, and which really, if you want to think about it, they're aping the style of the Bethesda open world games.
Yeah.
Doing that way. I like it better in Fallout than I do in the Morrowind stuff.
I still like. I just can't play those games because after a while I just get too distracted and can't can't get anything done. But I do like it better in the Fallout just because things like when you shoot somebody with a gun in Fallout, like it looks like you shot somebody with a gun.
Yeah.
But that's just different. But yeah,
I think
I
also,
respect those games though. Like they're good games.
Also, my goal is to kill Ganon. Like it is so hard coded into me that it's like, and so there is no amount of side questing that will make me lose sight of that. Like just because of, as far as character design goes, Jesus Christ, what a fucking villain! Like just the imposing, menacing,
emanating evil.
Any version of them, yeah.
Also, talking about things that like too much of a thing is too much is for me personally one of the reasons why can't or couldn't ever get into World of Warcraft. Played the Warcraft.
That's a big one.
That's a big ass fucking fantasy game.
Once again, sci-fi though rears its ugly head there. I like Warcraft. I love StarCraft.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just
real time strategy games.
We're doing touching on a little bit of both, but Warcraft, first two Warcraft games. I never played 3, but 2 was amazing. But World of Warcraft is too much of a game for me. But definitely,
when I was coming up, like the idea of like paying a subscription to play a game like disgusted me so much that I was never interested in playing.
My problem was not just that; it's also like I can't like justify paying $15 a month for playing a game that I already bought without playing a certain amount of it, which means I don't get to play other video games.
Yeah.
But we're talking about cultural touchstones, and that was also one. Especially around like when the 3rd or 4th expansion of WoW happened, like when you get to the Lich King and the Cataclysm and all that.
Yeah.
Like fantasy was like fucking exploding at that point.
Oh yeah.
And Warcraft was right there riding that fucking high from both not just Lord of the Rings being successful, but also EverQuest dropping the ball. But that's a different story for a different show. That we've already talked about.
We're leaning into the world of like some form of role playing games. Jay, you wanted to mention.
So for a lot of people, this is where Dungeons and Dragons comes in. Not so much for me. I'd played a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons in high school, but what really got me into role playing. So we mentioned the distinctions between high and low fantasy. Low fantasy is fantastical things happening in a mostly real world, or kind of couched in a real kind of place. The opening of 9 Princes of Amber is very low fantasy. Eventually becomes high fantasy because you're on the other side of the looking glass at that moment. But if you want to talk about, in my opinion, the greatest low fantasy production of all time, we have to go back to the early 90s. It starts with Vampire the Masquerade. It is followed up by Werewolf the Apocalypse. And then my favorite of them, Mage the Ascension. We had to talk about the World of Darkness.
Yeah.
That was so lightning in a bottle. It so reflected the 90s era. Like it had grunge, it had gothic horror. Like you're pulling in You're pulling in Anita Blake, and you're pulling in Interview with a Vampire, and all the things that come from that.
Heavy influence from Lost Boys,
Lost Boys,
and Nosferatu, and
directed by Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
Nosferatu for a little bit, but no, I think of
Dracula as well.
I think of Lost Boys. I think of Sunglasses After Dark, which is the first Anita Blake novel. If I don't mention Anne Rice, Anne Rice herself will rise up and kill me.
Of course,
yeah.
There's so much there, but then they also take it into so many different directions.
They do.
You had a bunch of other stuff. You had Wraith the Oblivion, which is one of the more unique systems.
Werewolf the Apocalypse.
I mentioned Werewolf. I mentioned, but Changeling the Dreaming. We're actually bringing the fair folk.
Things get really weird with that one.
Exceedingly weird, and why make this like like ghosts make sense in a world of darkness, but you have the fair folk. It's like, well, read about red caps.
Yeah.
Read about
Right.
like trolls, and then take them in a horror direction. Yeah, it exceedingly works at that point.
Well, it's like, I think like Werewolf sets the tone for the ability for them to go into different paths in that regard, because you have the different layers of reality.
Yeah.
You have the different layers of Umbra. So like the changelings like live within one of those levels, and things like that. Oh man, fantastic. Most of those books are fantastic.
Hunter the Reckoning, which I believe Eric Kripke either read or fucking consulted on, and that's where you get supernatural, things like that. Demon the Fallen, like, and that whole time that was it kind of shapes in that if it's not the Legend of Zelda, if it's not high fantasy, I like my low fantasy, like like things like that. You have the Dresden Files, which comes which again is it's fantastical circumstances and beings, but in a realistic world. Buffy the Vampire Slayer like really kind of shines in that regard for me as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Also, I mean, for me personally, going back to personal experiences, I also I dabbled a little bit in D&D, and Vampire was really the first tabletop that I got into. And the great thing about Vampire was those motherfuckers knew immediately that this is a very social game and started making rules for live action role playing for it almost immediately.
Laws of the Night.
Yeah.
That is what they were called.
Almost Mind's Eye Theater almost immediately.
Because you had Laws of the Night, Laws of the Wild, and the Laws of Magic, which I tried it. I ran it once. I ran a Mage LARP. You have got to be Mage was always the one that the GM really had to be able to enforce rules in a system that was meant for the players to break it as much as they possibly could. And there's always this balance there that you had to maintain. If you could maintain that balance, you were an excellent storyteller.
Yeah. RPG wise, I was late to the game when it came to RPGs. Didn't really get into them and 10, 15 years ago. So for me, funny enough, the first thing that I ever played was actually Castles and Crusades, which is kind of like another version of D&D basically. And then D&D 5e was kind of like the main one that I played for a little while, for a pretty good while actually. And that's the only actual named D&D version that I've ever actually played. But I've gotten away from that since, and we've kind of tried out other systems and stuff like that.
I had that experience early on, thankfully, and also not thankfully. The people that I was playing games with jumped a lot, and so we played I got to experience second edition, and then people were like, "Hey, there's this new game called Cyberpunk. We should play it." I'm like, "Okay." We made characters and played one session, then started playing something else.
Yeah.
Because I was like, "Ooh, there's this really terrible game with mechs in it with awful rules. Let's play that." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah,
I'm never playing anything by Palladium ever again." All right, moving on.
Yeah, when it comes to fantasy stuff, the funny thing that I've really tried to do lately is kind of search for a really good D&D replacement. Yeah, alternative that gives me everything that I get in D&D, but just not D&D.
Yeah.
And I've had trouble finding that because I can find pieces of it in other games, but it's very hard to find.
The theme of Shadow Dark is really cool. I bought the book last week, but reading it, I'm like, it uses a lot of rules that are very close to 5th edition, 3.5 and 5th edition. They adopted the advantage disadvantage mechanic from that, and
which I think that's legitimately
that's a really good
that's one of the best things that come out of
any of these games.
Edition.
Any of these games really.
But I can find stuff that do a good job with Shadow Dark or Dragon's Bane or anything like that. They do a good job with presenting a world and having interesting rules, but they just don't have necessarily the crunchiness of D&D, where you're okay, I pick a class and then I get this thing and then I get this thing when I level up. I have trouble finding that. because I don't just, and people might say, well, do Pathfinder. I don't want to do Pathfinder. Pathfinder is basically D&D.
The first edition is. I don't know about second because they've revised that.
Which I'm pretty certain that the whole reason that they did Pathfinder was because they said they weren't going to do different editions of it, but that's neither here nor there. And
well,
I played
they need to make more money.
And I played like Starfinder, which is the sci-fi version of it, and I do like that, and that is crunchy.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't want to do Pathfinder because I feel like that's just me basically doing D&D. But that is an issue that I have had lately,
right?
Where I've just been kind of trying to find those things to give me that crunchy feeling.
It's really difficult
without something being like overly complicated.
Yeah, it's really difficult to find that balance in other alternative RPGs because typically they want to get as far away from that as possible.
Yeah.
Like Cypher System is very light on its rules, and it's up to the storyteller or the game master to get that. But the problem is that most people are at some point during a session wanting to fight something, and that system's not the best for combat.
Yeah.
So it's not about that. It's about exploring and things like that. So it is like, and there is also, and I don't want us to get on a big tangent about tabletop, but there's a hard balance between like rules light, crunchy rules, and then like,
and people who want to just play a miniatures game, but they want to call it a role playing game.
Also true. It's a very hard balance. And again, finding an alternative that's got just the right amount of crunch. And when we're talking about crunch, if people that are listening that are not used to playing tabletop games are like basically just keeping up with a lot of math numbers, and leveling,
it's just like rules and different things that you can do.
Well, the thing about D&D that's always like very seductive, at least 3.5, and I didn't play 4. I played a little bit of 4, but like mainly 2 and 3 is it's seductive because like especially in those earlier versions of it, because you get something every level or every other level, and it's like a video game and that addiction, and you're getting the rush.
It's the carrot on the line right in front
you
of
basically
you.
It's like you're always progressing something. You're always getting something, especially if you're playing with the right group of people and the right person running the game.
I will say though, when it comes to like fantasy RPGs, a lot of the stuff that I have found had I think that they have done really well, especially compared to D&D, is the worlds that they create are pretty interesting compared to D&D.
Right.
Like there have been some of these like modules and stuff that's been created for D&D that have been interesting, but I think like just the world is these worlds are much more interesting to inhabit.
There is something to be said that I think if you had come in at Advanced Dungeons and Dragons with how much they developed Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms and things like that, when you are developing for everybody, it starts going vanilla. And I say vanilla because vanilla does have it. It's not that it has no taste.
Right.
It's just it is a very bland. It's a very bland taste, and for some people, that's exactly what they want.
Right.
Cool. But some people sometimes want butter pecan.
Yeah.
And that's where you get Blades in the Dark.
Blades in the Dark's amazing.
We go back to low fantasy. Like this is a Victorian low fantasy.
Very gritty, grimy.
All of the magic is based off of either ghosts or demons.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a world, it's a fantasy world where the bad guys won and the sun exploded.
Yeah, it's grim, dark fantasy that's not set in a medieval setting. It's set in its own specific kind of setting, And City of Mist is the same way.
City of Mist, like the setting of that is great. I've been telling everybody about. I recently ordered this new set of books called The Land of Eam, which is described as Lord of the Rings meets the Muppets. So I'm excited about that, and it looks like a very interesting world to inhabit. They do a good job of like creating these environments, and I think something that they do better than what has been done with D&D lately is they create these environments where it feels like it's a living world where
the
a lot
world
of things
is
are going
out.
on, and it's very fleshed out. Whereas oftentimes when I play D&D, it really feels like the stuff that's happening around us is the only thing that exists. I
Right.
do not feel like anything is going on.
Nothing else is happening in
anywhere
the
else.
world.
Yeah.
What was it? What's the name of the game where you're like surfing on top of
Wild Sea.
Wild Sea.
yeah.
But here again, this is when you can start to like narrow things down.
Mm-hmm.
You have Wild Sea, Heart, Spire.
Heart.
It's more sci-fi, but slug blasters.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have things. It's like, what are these weird things?
Yeah.
What are these weird and unique things? And if something screams at you, you're gonna want to play it.
Right.
I'm just saying the idea of being a bloodthirsty barbarian, but you're also a sock puppet, really entices me.
Well, the Land of Eam, the cool thing, one of my favorite things is that you can play a gelatinous goo, which is
That's the one I'm playing.
That's the one Bianca also wants to play.
which
Nice.
which looks
I would have
very
been
fun.
a three-way in that fight. However, you can be frog people.
Yeah, you can be
so
frog
that
people.
was
Yeah.
frogs.
You can be skeleton if
You
you
can be a
want to.
tall,
If I
muscular
can't be a
man.
slime, I'll be a turtle.
But
And then, and real quick, I have to mention Fabula Ultima here.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Which is
Absolutely
which is
fantastic.
the melding of JRPG themes and conceits
Yeah.
in a very simple and easy to teach, and has, without a doubt, at least for me, the greatest world creator in any RPG I've ever played on a tabletop.
It's
because
absolutely
it's
fantastic.
it's everybody. It's not just the person sitting in the
Yeah.
storyteller seat.
And I would also have to like adjacent, not it's a different game, but like in the same sort of vein as the creativity of the world as Ryutama,
Ryutama, yeah, because that's where they got the idea of it.
which
from,
is
Ryutama.
it's just a game where it's like if you've ever played Takedo, but instead of like going on the road, in that board game, you're a traveling party, carrying dragon eggs to make sure they're okay by the time you get to the end of your journey, so they can turn into dragons while you're being guided by the DM or GM, who's also playing a character that is a dragon.
that's interesting.
Mhm.
That sounds unique. And
It is
nice.
very
Interesting.
unique. What else? What else we want to talk about?
So, gentlemen, we are making good discussions. These are amazing things that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
There was one question that I kind of had the idea I had with me when I threw out this episode.
Who put the bop and the bop shabop shabop?
Who put the ram and the ram and the ding dong?
Who put the
Huh?
ding and the ding and ding ding ding?
Quarters. Okay. Fantasy has gone.
Is that our safe word now? Is quarters?
Quarters.
Yeah.
Okay, just saying.
We've seen fantasy go damn near everywhere.
Mhm.
Almost.
Mhm.
Where are some things that you would like to see fantasy go?
The
Like-
the motherfucking infinite. Find new things. Let's do new things. Like all the new things.
Because like it's the idea that there still can be more things that can be influenced,
Mhm.
and so it's more so like possibly like the mixing of genres. Like you wouldn't expect fantasy to be mixed with.
I would like to see personally. I would like to see either a movie or a series or a book. It could be a book series, could be a TV show, could be a movie, whatever. However long you want to make it, where we dial it back down. And there's actually two different kinds, in my personal opinion. There's two different kinds of low fantasy. High fantasy is high fantasy, but
Yeah.
there are two different kinds of low fantasy. There is the low fantasy that Jay was describing as, what he was talking about, which is low fantasy. There's also low fantasy where you're in a let's just say you are in a fantastical world as far as like the setting goes, but there are no dragons. There are no, there could be weird creatures, but there are no magical creatures. However, there are at least one or two or a handful of people, characters, if you will, that have the ability to have some sort of magical ability to them. Instead of like in Harry Potter, everybody fucking magics, right? Lord of the Rings, not many people magic. But the world is magical.
Yeah, Jody,
what's up?
That's speed too.
Yeah,
Speed 2.
Oh, that's
That
right.
was Speed
That was
2.
Speed
That was Speed 2.
It's less funny without the rest of the joke.
Bullshit. And in that context there, that was perfect.
That was perfect.
You even admitted it was Speed 2.
That is correct.
Go on, Jody.
Starring
But-
Jason Patrick and not Keanu Reeves.
I would rather.
He knew what the fuck he was doing.
Yeah. I'd
Sandra
rather
Bullock
have.
didn't.
He went
All right,
into
I'm
the
fine.
Matrix.
Yeah.
Continue, Jody.
Sorry.
Oh no! I've been cut off twice. I'm done.
He's done. Okay.
Okay.
Thinking about something interesting that because I love both sci-fi and fantasy, and something that you also often see in sci-fi is they use sci-fi as a lens to explore different ideas, be it through a metaphor or through asking these deep philosophical questions and using sci-fi as a lens to do that. I would like to see more people do, and you see this sometimes in fantasy, but I don't think you see it enough, but do the same thing in fantasy. I think that there is a possibility for you to use fantasy as a as more of a lens to do the things that they do in sci-fi to for metaphors and things like this to explore like bigger questions.
Right,
and
because
stuff
like in
that.
70s there was a lot of like blending of sci-fi
Yeah.
fantasy. Like you would have like a sci-fi movie like Logan's Run, but there would be so many weird fantasy elements
Yeah.
to those. One could also like Planet of the Apes, right?
Yeah.
Like it's fantasy adjacent. Like there's sci-fi involved, I guess, but it's more of a fantasy movie, really.
But like,
first one
and of course,
anyway.
like sci-fi inherently does that,
Right.
Just because of the way sci-fi is structured.
That's true too.
But I would like to see more people in whatever format they choose explore that a little bit more. I think we're seeing that.
It is starting
and
to
I do
happen
think
more.
like an interesting thing. Like I said, we're seeing people like create these really interesting worlds, be it for like RPGs or for less so like movies and TV shows. I think nowadays, but
more like books. Like
books.
John dies at the end, right? That's
Books.
there's a lot
yeah,
of
that's more like cosmic horror.
that's a blending of all the genres, really.
Yeah. But yeah, just seeing people use fantasy in that way, I think would be very interesting, because that is one of my favorite things about sci-fi. And again, you see it sometimes in fantasy, because sometimes you get the Will Smith vehicle Bright. Isn't that the name of the movie?
Yeah.
Where
Is a buddy cop movie with
all the
an
orcs
orc.
are black
orcs.
people.
Yeah.
So this is something
and it doesn't work in that. But
there's something to be said here. So Mandalore Gaming, who's like one of my favorite YouTubers, he was talking about there's this fantastic RPG story wise called Arcanum of Steamwork and Magic Obscura. The way they approach those ideas is organic into the world. They built a world and you talk about it, and it's very organically, and the storytelling and the writing is very good at there. Meanwhile, he mentions Dragon Age and the allegory casserole that game is. It's just, let's just throw a whole bunch of themes and allegories in there and just make a statement on it, but don't really explore why we get to the statement.
Gotcha.
sometimes they do that. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like, this is the truth. Okay, moving on. But I would like to explore. No, dragon. We have to fight a dragon.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I would like to see it more. For me, I want to see this continued pursuit of worlds in RPGs, tabletop and in role playing, where people are just conceits, themes, worlds, new and different and weird and fucking just what we can tell in those and what stories we can tell in those worlds. That's what I really want to push for. Things that I'm not thinking about right now that exist, that somebody wants to tell a story in, and then once you tell me about it, I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's where it's less the big productions, it's the productions that like for people like us sitting around a table,
Right.
the stories we could be able to tell out of that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's I definitely second that, because that's one of my favorite things about like when I get these RPGs, and like I know I talked about it a while back, but one of the ones that I got was Penumbra City. Like that is a very interesting world that nobody else has. Like it you can see little influences, but it does not. But that world does not feel like anything else that I have ever seen, and it's because it's from a lens of people from a different background than a lot of people especially in the past who have made these RPGs. So Yeah, I definitely second that. That is something that I do really want to continue seeing, and I hope it does.
Yeah, that's I agree with what Brady said. Like, it would be nice. I'm not like hating on like anybody who's like read mostly just fantasy, but the problem with the guy who's read like every R.A. Salvatore book and makes an RPG setting, it's going to be very close to what he's been influenced by if that's his only lens.
Yeah,
and I want to see more blending of the genre and more changing things up, to make things more interesting, and not have your base. Like, I love medieval fantasy, don't get me wrong, but we've got that. We need something else. We don't have to have it. Look, I could start a campaign right now and tell you we started an inn. We're all from this town called Bramblewood, and you guys already fucking know what's going on. I don't have to fill you in on anything. All right, we got like this king, and he's corrupt, and you've got to make sure that the money and the dragon, you got to slay the gnome, and you already know what's going on. You don't have to think, right?
One of the ideas that I kind of wanted, I want y'all to stick with me, okay?
Okay. Okay.
Godzilla -1.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
It's
well-known fantasy property.
It's the aftermath of
a cataclysm.
It's the aftermath of the greatest disaster that they've seen.
Right.
And they're trying to rebuild, and they just continue to get demolished by Godzilla.
Yeah.
I want to see, like, I want to have the idea of an average person in a medieval setting that's having his entire world kind of like obstructed by everything that's going on. It's not more so about the hero defeating the dragon or defeating the ultimate evil. It's more so like the commoner that's trying to overcome like the entire castle is falling down. How am I going to provide for my family?
Well, also
kind of like a medieval drama.
The punch of Godzilla -1 is that they blend in mythos of Godzilla with the reality of what happened in World War II, and they combine those things to where it was a seamless story that made Godzilla probably like the most realistic he's ever been in a movie, and make it make sense. And so for them to do that, and I would like to see that in fantasy as well. But in order to do that, you have to make your cataclysm has to be like a real event that affects other things that are going on while this other person is trying to traverse what's going on.
The idea of post-apocalyptic fantasy is something that you don't see very often.
You don't.
I would argue Mistborn, the Mistborn series, at least the first 3 books is that basically.
Right.
It is after the bad guy won, and took over everything.
I'll bring up Blades in the Dark again.
Blades in the Dark.
Also, Wizards. Yeah.
It's not something that you see enough.
You don't see often
because it's more difficult.
Shannara
to do.
too, right? The Shannara series.
That one I'm not familiar with.
Well, they made a really terrible TV show based off of the book series, but there's like in the second season of the show anyway. Because you have elves and you have, all your different, fantasy tropes and things like that. And they're walking through this area, and then you see like an old canister of toxic waste. You're like, oh, this is Earth, and this is like in the future. So it's like, that's kind of Wizards, right?
Yeah.
That's how Wizards did it. Wizards is like, it's not the past. When you have the reveal in that movie for the first time, it's mind blowing. And you're like, oh shit, this is like the future, and everything's come back,
Well, there's a fan theory that the Disney movie Aladdin takes place in the far, far future after some cataclysmic event.
Really?
Because that makes sense why the genie knows all of these like references that are timely.
Oh, okay. I like that theory. That's a cool theory.
Yeah. But yeah, the idea of that would be an interesting thing to explore a little bit more. But that is pretty cool. Just like, oh, what the fuck did Bob the Farmer do while Game of Thrones was happening? Probably die a horrible death, to be honest, if we're in that particular series.
I ran a year-long campaign in Dungeons and Dragons, and the whole gimmick was that dragons didn't exist anymore.
Like the idea of the darkest timeline actually happening.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Those are always interesting stories. Yeah.
I think that just about does it, right?
Yeah.
Are there any more fantasy related things that we would like to mention?
It hit me that I didn't even mention the Redwall series, so I need to do that now. We don't have the time to talk about it, but no. Because I don't have much. It was just a very. I read them a little bit later than what than what the age range is, but those are great fantasy series if you want to get your 12 or 13-year-old into it.
Labyrinth,
even younger than that.
Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
There we go.
We'll talk about the Dark Crystal later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Any more final thoughts?
Sexy Skeksis.
Okay, with that, we're pulling into the station.
There is nothing you can say after that.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to us as we ramble on for about almost an hour.
More than an hour, sir.
More than an hour, yes. Tune in next week as Brady describes the fantasy alignment chart.
Yeah.
And we're gonna put things on an alignment chart and see how it
we're
works
gonna
out.
discuss this.
Yeah. Nice.
Where do you?
I'm the only one who kind of understands this, so nobody knows exactly what next week's gonna be.
I
am ready for it though.
I understand. Warhammer 40K.
I'll be all right.
Lighthearted rom-com.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
As always, we'd like to have a big thank you and shout out to MacNarb Gaming, located in Goshen, Mississippi. If you have any board gaming, card gaming, or tabletop needs, check them out. They have a assortment of many things.
And card sleeves for every card.
Deck boxes for every deck.
They have a lot of the RPGs that we talked about.
I ran them out of 76 by 76 millimeters today. They don't have those anymore.
If you need square sleeves, you're shit out of luck.
Should have gotten.
They
there
got
last
smaller
week.
versions and larger versions.
But if you'd like, Shadow Dark or
Yep.
D&D, the new and the old stuff.
Hey, you better hurry up on that Shadow Dark shit.
what
There's
is- or
currently
Advanced
only one of
D&D.
those.
Advanced D&D.
They likely have it.
The one copy of Blade Runner that's been on sale for 2 months.
Yeah, they've got
If you enjoy Game of Thrones, they have the Game of Thrones board game.
Do they?
They might have a copy of it, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I know they have that fucking Elder Scrolls thing.
I was thinking of that.
Yeah,
Game
the
of Thrones. Never
$200
mind.
gigantic
Elder Scrolls.
fucking.
Wait a minute. For you, Elder Scrolls and Game of Thrones is the same thing?
I couldn't remember which one it was. I understand.
How are you the most senile person in this
I
room
understand
right
they
now?
are two completely different things. I could not remember which one.
One
it
had a
was.
guy push his thumbs in another guy's face and rip his eyeballs out, and the other
Yeah,
one,
that happened in Daggerfall.
yeah,
Check
The
out
opening cinematic.
and one Peter Dinklage was in.
Check out McNub Gaming in Goshen, Mississippi. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to us as always. My name is Ethan Skinner.
I'm James McCarthy.
I'm Brady Davis.
I'm Jody Kite.
Disassociated there for
Yeah,
a second.
it's okay, brother.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you next week.
All right.
It was a good time.
Good time.
I enjoyed it.
Good discussions.
I'm sure nobody will mention anything that we forgot.
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, the 3 Billboards episode of The Rookie was on,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't even like it was like the D plot. It was like the third most important thing happening on the show was the 3 Billboards.
That makes no sense.
3 Billboards is in 3 billboards out of Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah, it was like the D plot for the episode.
Wow.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know.